All right, well, I'm very thankful to be here in California today because, a couple days ago in my fourth hour human anatomy class, someone said, well, it's supposed to be about 90 today, and someone else responded, the wind or the temperature? Probably both. Yeah. Okay, how did I get here? Why am I standing in front of you today? That's a question that I asked myself when I was first asked to come speak here, because I'm not a public speaker. I've never even had a speech class in high school. Not a constitutional lawyer or anything. Don't really have many qualifications. So I was wondering why on earth I'm here. The only answer I can come to is that I'm a teenager who is interested in the Constitution, and that must be unique enough, interesting enough to have me here. So how did I get this interest? Well, I had a friend in freshman year of high school named Cooper. He was in Omaha, if anyone remembers him. Couldn't be here. Unfortunately, California is a little further from home than Nebraska is. But he really helped me to... I had already had an interest in the Constitution and in history, but he really helped me change that from just a mere interest to a true passion for all of these things. He helped educate me with things he knew, and that got me interested in it more. So I started to read up on my own. I got more of my own research done, gathered information for myself, and something about Cooper is he had always carried a pocket Constitution with him, one a lot like this one. And I started to do that very shortly thereafter, after his example. So I've started to encourage everyone else my age to read it and to understand what's in it, because that's what Cooper did for me, and it really helped me to understand my rights, and well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. And I do hand out copies wherever I can. That picture there is 4th of July in Washington, D.C. They do a big fireworks show, and I was there on a trip with my aunt and handed out several copies to people in that crowd. This is the type that I would hand out. So, I mean, they're handing them out here too. All of you probably have one. So why do teenagers in general not care about this kind of thing? Why is me caring about this so unique as to have me speak in front of you today? One answer is I'm too young. And connected to that is that I can't vote. They think that if they're too young to vote, they can't make a difference at all. So they shouldn't bother to study the Constitution, study their rights, and learn about it because they can't change anything. That's, of course, incorrect, but that's the thought process that takes place. I have other things to worry about. I'm in high school. I have tests. I have an essay due that I should probably be working on right now. I have a million other things. So why should I worry about a document that was written hundreds of years ago? I'm not interested. Simple as that. People just aren't interested in it, and for them that's enough of a reason not to read it. And then there are teenagers in my school and in all the places around us who do care and who do have a passion for this, but don't feel that they have any way to get their passion out there. They feel voiceless. You know, in my school, I think there's more of us than in most. There's the people in my class are Traber and Hayden and Aiden and myself. We care about these things more than I think most teenagers do, and that's unfortunate. So we do care, but we give off the impression that we don't, because we're not involved, because we don't say anything. My sister, when she heard that point that I just made, said, "No one is heard until they open their mouth." It's a very good point. So if teens aren't caring about the Constitution and about their rights, what other things are they caring about instead? School, hopefully, tops the list. Girls. I've made a slight joke, food, because I'm a teenage boy and that's on my mind probably about 90% of the time. And the future, yes, we do care about the future. But many of us don't have the knowledge and don't have the ability, or feel that we don't have the ability, to make any impact on the future. So we need to change that. And that chart, of course, is also a joke. However, I do feel that it's a fairly accurate representation of our lunch table discussion over the last few weeks leading up to this. The labels are prom, girls, food, and politics, and I think you can guess what that big gray one is. And it's not politics. So why do I care? If most teenagers don't care and if they have other things to worry about, what sets me apart in my thinking? Well, I am a future voter. I can't vote yet, but a year from now, I'll be asked to vote. So I need to be educated on these things. I've put up there Oklahoma State Question 777. For those who don't know, that was, it was called the right to farm, and it was a state question we all had the opportunity to vote on, and it was voted down. And the main reason I heard when I asked people who voted against it why they voted against it, far and away, the main reason was, I didn't know what was in it, so I voted against it. Now, regardless of whether it was a good bill or a bad bill or whether it should have been voted in, the reason for voting against it should never be that you don't know what's in it. And the same principle holds true with the Constitution. We should be able to hold up anything that we're being asked to vote on against this and know what it says about it. We shouldn't vote from ignorance. It affects me. I am an American citizen, so the rights outlined in this document do hold to me, and if they're taken away, then they will no longer, and I need to know about them because they apply to me. It's a fairly simple point. And then lastly, more and more teenagers are being asked to weigh in on political subjects at a younger and younger age, and if we don't know about the most basic document of our republic, if we're not educated on it, we're not going to be able to hold real conversation or real debate about it in any responsible fashion. So what can you do about it? I don't want to leave you on the downer that most teenagers don't care and there's no hope for this nation. Well, how can you help? Most of you in this room are adults, so how can you get your children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews involved? Talk to them as if they're your peers. They're not your peers, I'm not saying that, but when you're talking to teenagers, the quickest way to shut down our ears is to talk down on us with stuff like this. If you allow a real conversation, like I've had with many of you over the last couple of days, is the microphone working? Hang on. Okay. Anyway, if you hold real conversation as if both parties were an adult, even though of course they're not, and I'm not saying that, it really gives the teenager this idea that they can make a difference. And that's what helped me a lot, is people like you involving me in conversations and involving me in these topics to a point where I really felt like I was able to make a difference on this, and it helped develop my passion further, and it can work with other teenagers too. Listen to them. The word listen is bolded. If you don't listen to what your teenagers are saying, you won't know what they're being exposed to. You won't know what's in their heads. And that's important. I've got down there as a subpoint, most teenagers are going to spend more time with their peers than with their parents. As a result of that, they're going to be exposed to ideas, some ideas that conflict directly with what you believe, and some ideas you may never have heard of. And that's a really good thing if you know what those ideas are. You know, being exposed to new ideas is great, but they need to be educated on the facts so they can form their own opinions. Try to ensure better education on history and civics. That's a big one. You know, the school system does have history and civics classes, but that's really not enough. We need to be talking about it at home. My parents have done a really good job of that with my sister and I, talking about history and getting us engaged in that kind of thing. And it's really helped to develop my passion for the Constitution. It came from a love of history. And that wasn't from school, that was from stuff at home. And then I have there on my last subpoint that our news sources are social media. Many teenagers today aren't watching the news, and they're definitely not reading a newspaper. They're getting most of their news off of social media and from their friends, and I don't mean Facebook. So it would be a good idea probably to know what your teenagers are following and what they're being exposed to on social media, not so you can control it, just so that you can educate them on the facts, so they can form their own opinion knowing all the sides of the issue. Other teenagers, what to do about it. So for kids like Ian and I who do care about the Constitution, how can we get our peers involved? Well, I have up there, don't just try to make a difference, be the difference. Cooper was my difference. He was a kid my age who cared about the Constitution. And that passion rubbed off on me to a point where I'm now here speaking to you. If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't be carrying this. I wouldn't know about the Range Rights and Resource Symposium. I wouldn't have been here in the first place. So any one of us teenagers can be that for all of our friends if we try. Talk to your friends, encourage conversation on more serious topics. Teenagers really tend to shy away from anything serious. We want to talk about anything but. But, encourage conversations on the future and on the Constitution, and that'll get them in the right way of thinking to develop, to understand facts and develop their opinions. Be persistent. Not annoying, but persistent. If you've repeatedly brought up the Constitution in conversation, and they know that you're the one in the class who knows about these things, if they have questions, they'll come to you. And that's a good thing, because then you can help educate them on the facts that you've spent these past few years studying for. At my school, that picture is from a theme day we had called America Day. So we all dressed up in red, white, and blue, and I went around and handed out 200 constitutions. Stuff like that. Also handed them out at a homeschool group in town who were doing a study on the Constitution, but for some reason, they didn't have any. They had like a teacher's copy, and that's it. So we gave them pocket constitutions for all of the homeschool students. We were in Kansas at an IHOP, and the waiter was a teenager, a high school senior, if I remember right. Gave him one after our meal. Just little things like that. Be persistent. So, my conclusion. On the cover of all of these that I hand out, thanks to the help of people like Trent who have gotten me a lot of copies of this, is this quote from George Washington. In reference to the Constitution, he said, "Its only keepers, the people." He didn't say its only keepers, the adults. He didn't say its only keepers, the voters. He said the people. Teenagers, we're still the people. And we still have a duty to understand the Constitution and to keep it and to protect it. So that when we can vote, and when we are, you guys' age, when we are raising the next generation after us, we're educated on these things. It's still our job, regardless of our young age. Okay, down there in the bottom I have some sources, and they're all just for photos that I got off the internet. That's my contact information. I know it's not very many ways of contacting me, just an email and an Instagram. But if you want to direct message the Instagram, then I'll get back to you on that, and I will try to respond to emails if anyone has any questions. Interesting story about that top right-hand picture. That gun I'm holding crossed the Delaware with George Washington. One of his men was holding that when they crossed the Delaware. I got the wonderful opportunity at a rally for an Oklahoma candidate for governor to actually hold that piece of our history. It was an amazing experience. So that's my closing. Thank you.
Anybody have questions?
I'm Tara Tenney, and I just have to say what I said to the other young man in this room. Holy cow, you are amazing. And are your parents here?
No, ma'am.
Because if they were, I would stand and I would give them a round of applause too. You are amazing, inspiration to me. I have 4 boys, and I want to raise them to be sons of liberty, like the fire of liberty is burning in your heart. And I just wrote something down when you were talking. You said that you're not a voter. Why should my voice count? Or I don't remember the exact language that you said, but when Benjamin Franklin came out of the Constitutional Convention, he was approached by a female lobbyist, at which point females did not have the legal right to approach the ballot box. And she said to him, well, doctor, what do we have? A republic or a monarch? And so she, a female having no rights, according to the law, was intimately involved in our nation's development. And she played a significant role in getting that ball moving if you study the story of Mrs. Powell. And so I think that you're right on track. Our constitutional republic is so much more than just a democracy.
Exactly.
It's about relationships, it's about being informed, and about being humble to teach people when that seed prevents itself for you, or provides itself for you to teach after years of study, like you said. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being who you are.
Weston, did you not also ask those individuals you handed the Constitution to sign it as a pledge to you that they would actually read it?
Yes, on these particular copies, there is a...
Hold on.
Sorry. Yeah, on these particular copies, there's a pledge on the back that essentially requests the signer to confirm that they will read and understand this document. And when I can, I ask the people who I'm giving it to sign that just as their own personal pledge.
Weston Jones.